is the one and only Republican senator who has signed on to cut, cap, and balance. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Sean.
All right. As I was saying to Karl Rove, I'm angry that on the day this bill, the country ought to be focused on the answer or the best answer out there to our problems and preventing more long-term damage. You know, we've got senators announcing, giving to the president an opportunity to divert the country's attention. I'm pretty angry about it, with a bill with no specifics that seemingly is going to raise taxes and go against the very things that Republicans were elected to not have happen. Your reaction?
Well, the interesting thing is there isn't any legislation. There will not be any legislation from the Gang of Six before the debt ceiling. So it's completely a distraction. We have something out there. It passed the House last night, cut, cap, and balance. Our plan says we'll allow the debt ceiling to go up if we pass a balanced budget amendment. The Gang of Six plan never balances. So I've told people I figure it's a compromise to wait 7 or 8 years to balance a budget. I can't support any plan that never balances.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, there's no legislation. There's not going to be any written legislation. There'll be no CBO scoring of this. And even the broad outlines that I've read say that these cuts will come, well, from this department and that department, but they're unnamed. So in other words, we're going to raise the debt ceiling and we're going to play the old Washington game that the actual spending cuts come later. Why would we be suckered into that?
And here's the problem. The whole terminology of saying there are going to be cuts is absolutely false. It's cuts against a baseline. The baseline's going up $9 trillion in debt over the next 10 years. If they cut $3 trillion, that means they're still going to add $6 trillion in debt over the next 10 years. It is not a balanced budget. It is not something that I think our country can live with. We cannot add $6 trillion more over the next 10 years and sustain that kind of debt.
Well, on that trajectory, we're at 100% of GDP at that particular point. You know, but the political point here is this. You know, the House did its job now twice, and they've taken a lot of political heat for House Republicans. I think they deserve a lot of credit because I think their bill's responsible. It deals with the short-term problem. Seniors will get taken care of. The debt ceiling is taken care of. The debt is paid. We begin the process of dealing fundamentally with the problems. And then on the very day they're voting, we've got, you know, the undermining by some of your colleagues. And I'm frustrated. Why would we be negotiating against ourselves, or conservatives be, you know, undermined this way?
Here's the interesting thing is we're actually proposing to raise the debt ceiling. We hate that fact. We don't want the government to borrow more money. The only reason we've come to this is because it's a compromise if we get a balanced budget. But here's the president on the other side. I think he's acting irresponsibly because he says he's going to default. He's going to not pay Social Security checks. He won't pay our soldiers. We have $200 billion a month that comes in. We have plenty of money to pay our interest, to pay our soldiers, to pay our Social Security checks. So if those don't go out, or if we default, it's all on the president's shoulders, because we actually have legislation that would say you have to, by law, you have to send out the Social Security checks.
Is that
he would be breaking the law.
Is that the law now of the land?
Well, some people argue that it already is the law, that the Social Security has a valid obligation and it has some assets that they should always pay their checks, and that really he would be breaking the law. But we want to go one step further. We want to pass more legislation that says explicit to him, pay the debt, pay the interest on the debt, pay the Social Security checks, and pay for the soldiers' salaries, because we don't want him using that as a political football to emotionally charge people. He's the one that wants to default because he wants to continue in unlimited borrowing without significant budgetary reform.
I contend that if the president didn't get this chance yesterday to, you know, divert the country's attention from cut, cap, and balance, because Republicans are negotiating their own little private deals, and then he says we even have a super fallback position, the McConnell plan. It seems to me that the shoe would be on the other foot. You know, Donald Trump says the Republicans got to learn to play better chess. I agree with him. So in other words, if they pass cut, cap, and balance as they did yesterday, hand it off to you guys in the Senate, why don't we just sit back and wait? The money is there.
Exactly.
You passed it. Congress did its job. Now let this fall on the president's shoulders.
Exactly. And what I'm proposing is, no matter what happens on Saturday, I would love to see the House next week pass the bill that directs him to pay interest, pay Social Security and pay the soldier's salary. Direct him to do that, and then say, look, we want to compromise with you, but we want a balanced budget. 75% of the American people want a balanced budget amendment. He needs to compromise on this because the people are with us and they're not with him.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one last question. If, in fact, they don't take it up in the Senate, would you support maybe a short-term dollar for dollar, raising the debt ceiling, short-term, dollar for dollar with a cut, just so the Republicans, quote, wouldn't get the blame even though they don't deserve it?
No, I won't support a short-term increase in the debt ceiling. The only debt ceiling increase I will support, and it's begrudging to tell you the truth, but the only debt ceiling I'll support is with the balanced budget amendment. But what I will support is I will continue telling people that the president has a choice here, and he's choosing not to send your Social Security checks out. He's the one using your check and your livelihood as a political football, and he should be ashamed, frankly.
Yeah, that's the thing. The president's the one that won't move here. President's,
Exactly.
He's standing firm, and if the Republicans got in a room and said we're standing firm, then it's all on his shoulders. I agree with you. All right,
Absolutely.
Senator, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Sean.
And coming up, Congressman